Hey, how's it going? This is going to be another instrument nerd video. I'll be talking about the difference between the the standard Favilla ukulele, or standard shape, I should say, and their teardrop ukuleles that they made in the 1930s mostly. And a quick word about the Favilla company. Favilla was an instrument maker, an American instrument maker that operated from the 1890s up into the early 1970s. I I have a number of their instruments, especially ukuleles. And if you watch any of my previous videos, yes, I am a fan of the maker. And while most of their production involved making guitars, there's been a surge of interest in their ukuleles over the past decade or so, with a lot of people saying that the Favilla vintage ukuleles are pretty much of the same standard as the vintage Martin ukuleles. And having played both, I gotta say I would say that's true. I'm not sure that I played a Martin ukulele a vintage one that really seemed all that great. But that's a personal opinion. But anyway, I thought it'd be an interesting little comparison. I'm going to do, I recorded a separate session where I play both of these instruments to see if there's really any difference in sound. I've heard that some people are of the opinion that the teardrop style projects more, is a little louder. I'm not sure that's true, but honestly, I haven't listened back over those recordings, so maybe my opinion will change. But and you might wonder, where did this idea come from? I believe that it was a little faster production to make these teardrop ukuleles, and they started making them in the early 30s, during the ukulele craze, and apparently there was a point at which they couldn't make these things fast enough. They were flying off the shelves. This is a solid mahogany one, which are somewhat rare. They don't come up on the market very often, which is why I went ahead and snagged this one. They made a lot of them out of birch, which was a common tone wood used back in the day for more budget instruments. You see a lot of harmony instruments made up, like up until like 1970, will be made out of birch. And most of the ones that are in birch are painted, and that again was a time cutting thing. They takes a lot more time to put a finish on it. They could paint them, get them out the door, and apparently they would sell as soon as they hit the stores. There are a few rare examples of birch in natural finish, but most of them were painted, and a lot of they were still making ukuleles in this traditional shape, and a lot of those, if they're painted, those are birch. That's pretty much a general rule. So anyway, so beyond the obvious body size, there are a few small differences here. The bridge here on the teardrop is very rounded. It's rounded all the way, you know, kind of comes up and levels off and then slopes over. It is all one piece, probably rosewood, whereas the more traditionally shaped ones, and this is probably a later piece. This is more likely to be 40s or 50s. This has more of the traditional shape that you usually find. Puppy, I'm filming. Okay, can you? Are you gonna help? Okay, she's helping. But this is more of a traditional shape. It does have kind of a swoopy thing here at the front, which you don't usually see. And these aren't big things, but they do kind of indicate that they spent more time. It's a little more work, and most of your lower end ukuleles at this time period would have a pretty rough shape. Just crank them out. Oh, and this has a ebony saddle, which was common for higher end ukuleles at the time. So playability, I haven't seen. They're both really good. When I first got this, the teardrop, the action at the nut was really high, or the nut grooves were a lot higher than they should have been, which is, you know, kind of surprising, because I don't know that I've had my hands on a Favilla instrument that had anything obviously wrong from the production standpoint. But once I, you know, gently brought those grooves down a little bit, everything fell into place. The action is a little high here, but not really. Doesn't go out of tune or anything. The action's quite low on this one. And that's another thing that you'll often find with the vintage ukuleles. A lot of times the action's quite high because they were just cranking them out. A lot of these makers didn't really consider them to be serious instruments, so what does it matter if it's, you know, if the action's so high it's going to go out of tune. But anyway, and you know, I am going to be interspersing pictures, as I probably have done at this point in the video, so that you can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. So the headstock here, this kind of has your typical imitating Martin shape here, whereas this has more of almost like a modern shape here. And something that's really unusual is the taper here at the top of the headstock. That's just something you don't really see in most stringed instruments, period. I mean, it's kind of a nice little feature. It adds to the organic nature of the shape and everything. Yeah, so and they're both really nice sounding instruments. And the tuners, even though I think there's a big time difference between these two, I think it's like the exact same tuners, these black tuners, and they work really well for friction tuners. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of, there's not a whole lot to say other than that, you know, these teardrop ukuleles are kind of an interesting little piece of history. I don't know, you know, I don't know that another maker made these, at least back then. I'm sure, I know people have done similar designs more recently. And I'm sure this was kind of like their take on the pineapple shape. But anyway, now I'll show you the sound clips or tests that I did on the ukuleles. So there you have it. Like I say, I haven't really developed an opinion on whether one of these is better than the other. They're both good instruments. I'm going to be selling this guy soon because I really wasn't planning on buying this. It just came up, and it came up in a eBay auction, and I put in a bid that I honestly didn't think was going to win, and I got it for a good price. But I have a general rule that I can't have too many of the same type of instrument. I find rationales for it, but I think at this point I don't really. I'm not a huge fan of soprano ukuleles, so I don't know that I can justify having a bunch of them sitting around. So this guy's going to be up for sale in a little while. And yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any opinions about which of these ukuleles sounds better. And take care. So a quick footnote here. After listening to the recordings, I would say that I do hear a pretty pronounced difference between the ukuleles. I'd say the traditionally shaped one has a brighter tone, more of a bark, as they say in ukulele circles. Has kind of a snappier attack, whereas the teardrop shape has more of a rounded, fuller tone, more bass response, kind of a mellower vibe to it. Yes, that would be my assessment. I'd be interested to hear what difference you guys heard. So, see you next time. Bye.